Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Do I need to check for alcohol or animal ingredients in the perfumes that I use? Do I need to check for alcohol or animal ingredients in the perfumes that I use? Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. There are two issues here. The first issue is about alcohol, and the other issue is about animal ingredients. So, as for alcohol, we have many questions, or rather, many answers on the Seeker's Guidance Answer Service about the status quo of alcohol according to the Shafi'i school. Now, the strict view and the official view of the Shafi'i school is that liquid intoxicants are impermissible. Not impermissible, liquid intoxicants are najasa. They are impermissible to consume, but of course, we are speaking here about the impurity of the substance. So, this would obviously include alcohol. Alcohol would be the primary intoxicant that is in liquid form. And this is going to be prevalent in many items. So, the strict view in the Shafi'i school and the original rule is that liquid intoxicants are impure. So, if a little bit of alcohol, according to the strict view, is added to some perfume, for whatever purpose, preservation, to make it last longer, etc., that would render the entire contents of that perfume bottle, assuming that it is less than 200 liters, which is probably the case, it would render the entire thing as mutanajjis. It is contaminated by najasa. The problem herein is to apply this rule for Shafi'is in the contemporary world would make life practically impossible. Why? Because of the principle of umumul balwa. Alcohol in the modern era, post-industrialized world, is used as a solvent and as a catalyst within many other chemical reactions, whether that be within paints or clothing dye or, a plethora of other issues. So just dye alone, if I'm looking around me now, the paint on the walls, the dye of the fabric, the items of plastic around you, they all contain traces of alcohol that was probably utilized while the substance was still in its liquid form. So plastics, before they become molded, they probably had some ethanol alcohol within the process. This would mean that practically everything is contaminated with najasa if you strictly want to practice the original rule. However, other scholars differed as to the nature of a liquid intoxicant, and some have disagreed with this ruling, saying that it is not najasa. The likes of the teacher of Imam Malik rahimahullah ta'ala, Ismail ibn Yahya al-Muzani, the student of Imam Shafi'i, and many others. So there's a genuine difference of opinion as to the status quo of the alcohol or liquid intoxicants. Contemporaneously, Shafi'i scholars understand this umumul balwa and the difficulty in avoiding alcohol as a chemical component in daily life. So for that reason, the vast majority of scholars mention, even the Shafi'i school mention, that because of the general unavoidable nature of the situation, it is something that would be overlooked. It is ma'fuun anhu. But despite this ruling, when you have the option to avoid alcohol and the usage of alcohol with ease, right? Even though there's a dispensation because of the wide prevalence of something or the ubiquitous nature of this thing, that doesn't mean that we should then completely ignore the madhab, completely ignore the original ruling and say, well, then in that case, we'll just indulge as much as we want. Instead, the more cautious approach would be that when you are given the option between something that does contain alcohol and something that doesn't, then prefer that which does not contain the alcohol, bearing in mind still that the principle still applies. Whether you follow the stricter view or not, it's again something that cannot be superimposed on anybody else because of the difficulty in doing so. So this is in relation to alcohol, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. So if you choose to avoid perfumes with alcohol in based on the strict ruling, Bismillah, go for it. It's a choice. Still know that there's alcohol in so many other things that you are interacting with on a daily basis. Secondly, when we look at animal ingredients, right? It depends. What ingredient are we speaking about and from which animal and to what extent? So ideally, if you are uncertain about the nature of the animal that has been utilized, then it is best to avoid it, because for the believer, when in doubt, do without. The Prophet ﷺ said that truthfulness is a source of contentment. Inna sidqa tuma'nina. Wal kadhib, and falsehood, ribatun, is a source of doubt. So for that reason, he said, Da' ma yuribuka ila ma la yuribuk. Leave that which causes you doubt for that which causes you no doubt. So you understand what the madhab says, the strict ruling of the madhab and the dispensation. And then when it comes to animal byproducts, there's also discussion on whether it is gelatin or rennet and the like. There are substances and there's differences about these substances. You decide on your approach, follow valid scholarship, and once you've taken that approach, also become tolerant of other views in that regard, because your view that you've chosen to follow is not the only view. If you choose to take the precautious stance, فَبِهَا وَنَعِمَتْ, excellent. That would be more prudent for you, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. But if not, and you take the dispensation for the sake of ease, or you practice accordingly for the sake of others and their ease, then that is also perfectly acceptable. Wallahu subhanahu wa ta'ala a'lam. Yuridu Allahu bikum al-yusra wa la yuridu bikum al-usra. Allah wants ease for you, He does not want difficulty for you, and Allah knows best. Tamam. So if you have any further specific questions about the usage of alcohol or animal products within perfume, and it's a problem for you, then my advice would be, for your sake, to find halal alternatives that contain no alcohol, that contain no traces of any animals within them, and stick to that, and that would be better for you. But understand that there's differences and they need to be respected, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best.
La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah.